everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. I'm excited to have our guest today. She's super inspirational. I feel like, Jessica, you've just run the gamut of the therapist trajectory that we all go through eventually at some point in our lives. And you have so much to share with the audience. I'm really excited today. So I want to introduce you. Today's guest is Jessica Harris. She's a therapist and business coach who helps other therapists fill their caseloads with private pay clients, super important, without the burnout. After building and scaling a successful private pay group practice where she consistently brought in 5 to 10 full fee clients a week, Jessica made the bold move to sell her practice and go all in on coaching. She now runs a 12-week program that teaches therapists how to simplify marketing and create financial abundance doing the work that they love. So whether you're private pay curious, ready to grow beyond the one-to-one, or thinking about diversifying your income, you're going to love this conversation. Jessica, welcome. So glad to have you here. I would love if we could just start with your story and how did you go from solo practice to thriving group practice and then on to fully private pay, in the beginning. I just would love to talk about that process for you, and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here and excited to chat. So essentially, I was working at another therapist practice. They took insurance. It was great, but I was definitely want to make more money. I'm a single mom, so I'm I want more free time and more money for my daughter, especially growing up with not very much money. I knew I wanted more. So basically, as soon as I got my license for my LCSW is when I decided to go private pay only, which it's definitely risky. I was I hope it works. I remember actually listening to some podcasts and being okay, I've heard some therapists say it works. So hopefully it does. I did a ton of marketing and website work beforehand, really delving deep into marketing. So I started my practice really slow at first, but at first, meaning the first 2-ish months. And then at about 2.5 months, it really started to blow up. And
Wow.
I only wanted 18 clients a week max, 15 to 18 private pay. And I hit that at the 4-month mark. And so at that point, clients were still coming in consistently. And I was well, I don't want to turn them away. I feel I'm driven and wanted to grow. And it was my goal. I do eventually want to start a group practice. It just happened sooner than I thought. So at that point is when I started hiring, and I just the demand kept coming. So I was hey, I guess I'll keep hiring. And some were part-time, some were full-time. I would say I was half and half. I would say more of them were full-time than part-time. It just kept growing. And then that's where I kind of was oh, this is cool that we're consistently getting clients. So it was just really exciting. And that's when I kind of was dabbling into coaching a tiny bit. Oh, it'd be fun to have another income stream. I was oh, what if a therapist in my practice leaves? I don't want my income to dip, but I also don't want to depend on them. Or what if something happens? I want to do some coaching for some extra income. And then there was such a high demand because people are how are you getting private pay clients? And how are you getting so many? And so that's where I ultimately scaled to coaching. Found out that coaching is what I liked more, had a lot more flexibility. And then I was got to the position not that far into my coaching program where I took the leap to sell my practice, which was never my plan. And coaching's been better than ever. So it's luckily all been worth it. It's funny because as I'm talking out loud, I'm such a non-risk taker my whole life. So I'm it's crazy that I took weird business risks because that's not my normal personality. So
yeah, it's amazing hearing you too, because my next question literally was going to be you're in an insurance-based group practice and you just see people talking about private pay. It's how do you even get that mindset shift, right? Because we're in grad school, right? And they're consistently saying you shouldn't even go into private practice. There's something wrong with you if you want to be in private practice. And then, of course, you're supposed to take insurance and you're supposed to do all these things. So, that's part of this too. I think for a lot of people listening, it's one, you took the risk and left it insurance based to go private pay. And I wonder, what was that like for you? Were you just you know what, you kind of said, I'm just doing it. I don't know. I'll just see if it works because I'm seeing other people do it. Was it just that easy, or was it a struggle for you inside your mind?
Yeah, it was definitely a struggle. And I even think back to grad school, I accepted the narrative of okay, you're never going to make that much money. But I also wanted to make a little bit more than everyone else. And I remember as we were graduating and people were getting job offers for such terrible amounts of money and being you should ask for more and we should be getting a little bit more, but still more was so minimal. Someone was making $40,000 a year after graduating and I was how about you ask for 50? And thinking that sounded so much. But I do remember being like, hey, like we should ask for more. But I was still stuck in the narrative of like, you're not going to make that much. I think for me, it was like seeing other people have success. There were like a couple of like colleagues I'd seen have a little bit of success. I heard some people on podcasts and I just did the math and I was like, hey, I don't need a crazy amount of clients.
Yeah.
And I think I was working with like 2 people that were private pay through the insurance practice who just didn't have insurance. So I was like, okay, some people are willing to do private pay. Like it exists out there. And I've seen other people have some success. I did the math. I made sure there was enough money as a backup. I had maybe like 6 clients follow me. And so there were like a small handful. It wasn't very many. It was not enough to pay the bills, but it was like enough to be like, okay, so some people are following me. But yeah, I think it was just like doing the math and seeing like if it worked for other people, like, and a lot of it too was like I was always like researching marketing and like what's going to give me the edge above other people? How am I going to get found? Are people going to want to work with me? So I think that kind of gave me some reassurance too of like, as long as I figure out this marketing thing, like it's a numbers game, I hope. Like, I'm like, eventually people will find me. So
Yeah. I mean, and I totally want to dive into that if it's okay with you, because I'm sure that's what you teach in your coaching program too, how to be sort of innovative in the marketing, get these private pay clients. And that's really a question I have. Like, is there a hard part with growing and marketing a cash pay practice versus maybe somebody that's just getting like referrals from an insurance panel? Like, what did you find was the hardest part of that process?
I would say, I mean, going back to the numbers game, like you just need more numbers. You need more people finding you. And you need people finding you from the right places. Obviously, if you're not taking insurance, you're not going to find people through the insurance providers. So you just need more people finding you. And then when they do find you, you need them to convert. Why are they going to choose you? And there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily like, gee, I really want to pay out of pocket. Obviously, no one says that. Obviously, if they don't have insurance, that's their only option, or if they have bad benefits. But it's people who aren't leading with insurance as like, okay, do they take my insurance? It's just people leading with like, I want to find a good therapist. I just want someone who's a good fit. Maybe I've had a bad therapist before. Maybe insurance is just not on their mind. And when they call, they're like, oh yeah, do you take insurance? But because that's not like their main question, a lot of times they're okay with it. And not everyone is. I would say 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 2 or 2 out of 3 people on average, and obviously there's so many numbers to that, but might be like, sorry, I need to take my insurance. So yeah, you're just going to need to get more phone calls, more people reaching out, but also having like a better website, a better Psych Today bio, things that like really build the credibility. Because as long as the value is there, like as long as the value is more than the money and people can actually do it. Of course, like we're not advertising to people in poverty or people that like genuinely just don't have the money. As long as the value's there, you'd be surprised at how many people are like, oh yeah, I'll make that work for now. And then it's so worth it. Or, oh, I'll use my super, like I'll see if I can get a super bill. Oh, okay, I can't, but I'm already so sold on you. Or, oh, I'll use my HSA card. Or they a lot of times are willing to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what I wanted to ask you. Like, you kind of touched on a few, like building the value, building the copy and the messaging and all of that. So, can we touch on some of those things, like some really specific kind of tips and tricks for people that are listening? They're like, yeah, I want to skip insurance. I want to be private pay. Like, give me all the things. Tell me what to do to make that work.
First and foremost, I am the biggest advocate for like getting found on Google. It's easier than social media, less work. Social media is great for coaching and other stuff. It can be good for therapy, but why not just go to people who are literally typing into Google every day, therapist near me, therapist in this area, in that area? Why not take advantage of that? And so I'm the biggest advocate, like get found on Google. Like some of the networking stuff happens naturally, but like just passing out business cards to a bunch of people isn't going to go anywhere unless you're maintaining a relationship. And you're already going to have natural word of mouth referrals. So get found on Google. One of the biggest, quickest ways to get found is get a Google business profile. Start getting colleague reviews. We obviously can't ask clients for reviews, but colleagues you can ask, get some reviews there, optimize it, post. On there, there's a spot where it's called like add an update. It's basically, it looks like a little social media post on there weekly. Make updates to show that you're active. Put in the hours, not just that you're willing to like see clients, but you're willing to accept calls. Have keywords in your description. Add a bunch of photos in there. So that's a great way to get found pretty quickly. And then the reviews obviously can help build credibility. And it's not reviews pretending to be clients. It's like, hey, I'm a colleague of so-and-so.
Right, right.
That's going to be really valuable. And then Psych Today, you need to have a good headshot because people are so judgy on headshots. And it has nothing to do with the way someone looks. It absolutely has everything to do with just high quality. It doesn't even need to be professional, but it just needs to look like you're friendly and you're welcoming. And like, you'd be surprised at how many people are picky on headshots.
And really, if you go look on there, you can tell. I mean, it's like, okay, that is probably not a good idea for your professional picture, you know? Yeah, I hear you. It's like you're at a barbecue or something, you know? I mean, like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's worth it to spend the time to like, you don't even need to pay someone professionally. Like, just get someone with a good camera on their phone, like blur out the background, put it on portrait mode, have like a really welcoming smile. That makes a difference. And then the first 2 sentences of your Psych Today bio need to be really good. You don't need to waste your time introducing yourself. Like, they can see that. Speak directly to what the client is experiencing. I think so many Psych Today bios, and I'll talk about this on website in a minute too. So many people are like, I provide a safe space and non-judgmental and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, clients assume that. Like, they expect that. That's like bare minimum. What about their pain that they're dealing with and speaking to that? Adding a video to Psych Today is really valuable because that helps boost the algorithm. So those are things for Psych Today. And then the last thing is website. And it's kind of similar to the same things, like updating it regularly, just like you do with your Google profile, having a good headshot on there, speaking really well to the client pain points. Like, what are they struggling with? What are they saying why they're coming to therapy? And yeah, making it look like it has a decent design. Like, I always tell people, like, go Google therapist near me or therapist for couples or therapist for anxiety or whatever your niche is. Google it and see what comes up. And then whatever comes up and whatever you like, you can start to like not copy what they do, but like, oh, I like this idea, or oh, this phrase makes sense. Let me see what stands out to me as if I was a client. Those are the main 3 things I teach: is get found on Google, but then Google business profile, therapist directories, especially Psych Today, and then website. And website, even if you are growing on social media, even if you are handing out business cards, it all goes back to your website. So your website's really valuable.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you definitely think Psychology Today is still the place to be? Because, you know, I hear these mixed kind of reviews all the time with all the directories, really. So you're seeing that with your coaching clients, like people are still successfully getting good leads from Psych Today.
Yeah, and it's for sure not what it was like 5 years ago. It's
Yeah,
like, I think people used to be able to fill up with Psych Today. Now it's like a supplement. I would never first prioritize, like, I'm just going to have Psych Today. You need to have other things. But even if you only get like 1 new client every 2 months and they're private pay, like, that is so worth it. So yes, it's definitely not like the main thing that I teach, but it just helps. I would say like the number 1 thing is have a Google profile and have a good website that's optimized for SEO. But Psych Today, if you ever do any Google reviews, or not reviews, Google searches, Psych Today is still pulling up. And now it's ChatGPT, and I've been exploring ChatGPT. ChatGPT pulls up Psych Today profiles. That's like one of the main things that they're pulling up. And I've gotten some clients, or some coaching clients in my program lately, who are like, I just got found on ChatGPT. So I've been playing around with it. And I've even asked ChatGPT, like, how are you finding like therapists? And they're like, they're telling me how they're finding them. And a lot of it is Psych Today. So
Yeah.
it's been cool to like kind of explore. I'm still newer in the world of like how to use ChatGPT, but I've had quite a few people in my program lately say like, I got found on ChatGPT. So
Yeah. And you know what I've been exploring lately with ChatGPT is they're calling it not SEO, but Ask Engine Optimization. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's like on your websites or whatever, blogging, but making them like asking the question the first 2 lines. And apparently that's helping with ChatGPT is like AEO instead of SEO is what I was just researching that this week because I'm like, this is fascinating because I'm coming up in ChatGPT and lots of people are. And it's like, that's where you need to be found because I go there to search now. I don't know about you, but I use that much more than even Google now. Not to downplay the power of Google and having that profile. I think it's super important, like you're saying. But it's a really interesting world we're living in right now, especially with marketing and private pay, particularly, I'm sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about like growing on Google is it is now in turn going to help you on ChatGPT. Because
Yeah.
they even on ChatGPT, when I ask them, they're like, we go to places that have good reviews, which you could get through your Google profile. You look up
Yes.
Psych Today, they're pulling people from websites. So you can still have like your Google like platform. But yeah, now it's like, how do I make it more optimized to like get found on ChatGPT as well?
Yeah, so cool. So I'm listening to you and you like sound like such a pro, right? So I'm sure eventually at some point you had to learn this stuff too. So what I do love to ask sometimes, were there like mistakes you made along the way that you've learned from that you could share and, help people listening maybe not have to go through that path of mistakes to get to this really successful outcome that you've gotten to?
Yes. Oh, tons of mistakes and tons of burnout and tons of exhaustion. The biggest thing was wasting thousands of dollars on things I did not need to spend money on. I mean, when I first started my practice, I remember spending like $3,000 on lawyer approved paperwork, and which obviously like you need good paperwork, but I was like, oh, I didn't need to spend that much, and there's templates and stuff. I remember spending all this money on one website and then not loving it, and then spending more money on another website. I paid someone to do SEO for me, and they weren't even like, they were like giving me backlinks to a different website. And then I was paying this other company to help me that I didn't need to. So I think I've wasted a lot of money. That's where I'm such a big believer in like therapists should know how to at least do basic SEO themselves. You can still pay people to like do it, but I've talked to 2 people over the past week who were like, "Oh, I paid someone like $200 a month or $300 a month for the past year to do SEO." And I'm like, "Cool, is it getting you clients?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, there's clearly a disconnect." Or there's been people who I've talked to who are like, "Oh, I've hired someone to do SEO to manage my Google profile." And I look at it and I'm like, they haven't done anything for it. So I would say a big mistake is like you want to know enough. You don't have to be a pro, but you want to know enough so you're not like paying people money that aren't even doing the right stuff for you. That's a huge lesson that I feel like I learned. I'm trying to think. I mean, profit margins for sure, like both when I hired too, of like, okay, like instead of just like getting caught up in like, okay, this is how much I make an hour and whatever, like really being cautious with profit margins. And when you grow quicker, like I do, like I did, I mean, and I constantly had to like take a step back and like look at expenses and budget and like what like things are coming in. So I feel like that's a huge lesson that I learned early on. I'm trying to think of other ones. But yeah, those are some of them. And then burnout. Like I for sure, especially when I started the coaching program, worked way too hard. And like I don't have regrets because it got me to where I am today. But now I'm like, okay, I don't need to work every weekend. I don't need to work every evening after I put my daughter to bed. Like I can like breathe more. I think, at least for me, and I know this is pretty common for people in general, is you tie like the more I work, the more money I make. And I've had to really unlearn that. And now that I'm making the most I ever have in my life and working the least, I'm like, okay. And it feels almost like a little unsafe in my nervous system sometimes still.
Yeah, I get that.
Remind myself like it's so, like, because I have a lot of people in my program who like burn themselves out. If they're like, I have to do 1,000 things. I have to get everything done right now. And it's like, you don't actually just block out an hour a day or whatever you need for marketing. And especially if you're wanting more clients or you wanting, more, it doesn't even have to be therapy clients, coaching clients or whatever income stream you're doing. If you're not in the phase of being fully good with like your income and your amount of clientele, and you're like, okay, well, I would like to see 3 more clients a week, then those 3 hours are now going to be your marketing hours to build up to that. But you don't need to do necessarily more to like burn yourself out. You should be doing at least that, because sometimes people fall in the trap of not working enough and just like, I did it once, it's not working. But then other people fall into the trap of like working way too much when it's like you don't need to. You just need to prioritize like the most important things first.
I love that. If you scale and you lose 3 hours, it's okay to fill it with something else that's going to continue to help you scale, but don't like double the hours kind of thing. Like lose 3 hours, maybe replace it with marketing, but don't do like 6 hours now. Just kind of like try to maintain that balance.
Yeah, and if you have the time and the space and the energy, great, do it. But also, like, you could also use the other, like, if you have 6 hours, you could use 3 of that for marketing, but 3 of that for, like, self-care and, like, mindset work. My income is always directly correlated with where my mindset is at, and it's very interesting to see. And if I, like, just, like, I'm fine and, like, get caught up in other stuff, and then I start getting caught up in all these negative beliefs, I always have to do, like, CBT myself a lot and, like, but also work through a lot of childhood core beliefs that I learned about money too. So it doesn't all have to be like marketing, marketing, marketing. It can also be, I mean, obviously business systems, all of that stuff, finances, but it could also be like some self-care, some mindset work that will make a big difference too.
Yeah, such an important message. So going back to the private paid model and the group practice and everything you had going on, like when did you realize that this private practice model was really working for you? And what did that look like from week to week? Clients, numbers for your clinicians, and income? How did you decide what prices to set and all of that? Could you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, and yeah, tell me if there's more information that I leave out, but essentially, for me, I just realized, like, okay, people are willing to pay for what they see the value in, and I started out at 150 an hour, and I'm in Utah, a lot of places, like, 200, could be the minimum, depending on where you're at, but I was like, that's what I wanted to start out with, and I found that people were paying that, so I slowly would, like, increase that, because I was like, if they're paying 150, they're gonna be okay paying 170, and, like, I didn't wanna go up to if I just forever remained solo, I would have eventually started charging, like, 250 an hour probably, but because I wanted to scale group-wise and I wanted more numbers so that I could see less clients a week, I think the max that we would charge people was 170 an hour. So that's what that looked like, and then, yeah, I think just realizing as long as you have enough numbers coming in, that's when I realized, like, there's people willing to pay, and so that's when I was like, "Hey, like, let me hire a therapist." And, I like, especially the first hire too, I was like, "I don't know. This is new. I don't know how many clients are gonna come in, but we'll see how it goes." And they were aware of that. And one of them had like another part-time job at the time, so it was fine. And my first hire ended up filling up like completely full within, I want to say it was 3 months. Like she was full. And so she ended up actually leaving her previous job and, like, taking a couple like, some of her clients with her. So anyways, it just kept growing there. I don't know, are you wanting numbers too of, like, how much to pay your therapist? Is that helpful or is
Yeah, I mean, I think that's helpful to know how do you split it. I mean, would probably be helpful. Or how do you know how much to split, how much to give, how much to keep for yourself?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
great
that'd be super
questions.
helpful.
I would say most places that I've heard of, some people will go as low as like 40%, but I've kind of heard like 40 to 60, 50 to 60 is like probably more common of a split. And it just depends. Like, are they working towards their licensure, or are you going to have to like either supervise them? And I actually couldn't even supervise the clinicians that were unlicensed. So I had to like pay another therapist to supervise them. So obviously they made a little bit less of that percentage split than others versus someone who's like fully licensed. And then looking at the numbers, like, are they virtual only? Or are they sharing an office with you or taking up like office space? Are you going to offer benefits or not? So really looking up the numbers, I always tell people start with honestly probably closer to 50%. And you can always roll up. And sometimes it might even be like 40% or 45%, because I've worked with some therapists who are like, okay, well, I make like 150 a session or 175, so I can give them like 100 of that. And it's like, wait, but you also have to pay taxes. If they're a W-2, that's another thing. You have to pay a lot of company taxes if they're a W-2 versus if they're a 1099. Then mine were all W-2s. And so that's where you would pay, a smaller end of the percentage, but always do the math first. Like, hey, how much am I going to have to pay in company taxes? How much am I paying for their EHR? How much am I paying? Am I paying for their site today? How much is all of that going to be, and how much marketing am I doing for them? And yeah, you can always go up, but you can't just, I mean, you could like pay them less, but that's
They'll
not.
probably be like, no, I'm not taking less. I'm leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, and also looking at like what's the average in the area. But yeah, I'm so big on like profit margins and making sure that like it's fair for everyone, where you're making enough, but also where the cool thing about private pay is you get to probably pay them more than most other places, which
That's
is
true.
really cool. And that's the thing, I had to like work through like this guilt of like, I'm not taking insurance, am I a bad person? And I was like, no, I get to pay my therapist better than they would get anywhere else. So that like really helped me. I'm like, I get to pay them really well and they're not burnt out. And so I remember that helps a lot too when I like felt guilt at first.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've got this thing going on, right? I guess did I read that you had you had six clinicians eventually? Was that you? Yeah,
Yeah.
six clinicians. You've got this private pay practice. Everybody's making money. They're helping people. It's great. So when do you decide, okay, now I don't want to do this anymore, or I'm going to sell this? Like, how do you go from that to that? What was the transition? Like, what happened?
Yeah, essentially, I had this moment where I was talking to one of my clinicians, and I was like, yeah, she could leave at any point. And I never wanted to live in the scarcity of like, oh my gosh, if they
Mhm.
leave, this is going to affect everything. Every time I hired someone, I was like, at any point, they could leave, they could take all their clients. That's okay. I'm not going to like do any weird like things. Like, I want the clients to go with whatever therapist they feel like is best. So because of that, though, I was like, hey, knowing that they could leave at any point, I don't want my income to just like randomly take all these big dips. And she never even ended up leaving while I was there anyways. But
But I could see how that would like weigh on you a little bit. It would
yeah.
feel like a little bit of pressure for sure.
Yeah. So
Right.
anyway, so then I'd helped some friends with, because they were like, how'd you grow coaching, or how'd you grow your private pay practice? So I just coached some friends for like free. I think there were about 2 of them, and they had a lot of success. And I was like, that was really fun. It was really fun to teach them business and marketing, which is so funny because when I started my practice, people were like, good luck. And I was like, yeah, I know nothing about business and marketing. We'll see if I make it. Like, I had no knowledge about it when I first started. But I ended up falling in love with business and marketing. So I remember I made a post in like a random Facebook group that was like, hey, I'm offering discounted business coaching. This is how quickly I grew my practice. Let me know if anyone wants help. Tons of people were like reaching out. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to create a course. But then I was like, no, I actually want to create like a full-blown program. So I created this full-blown program to like really help therapists with like a recorded course and daily group coaching calls and one-on-ones and SEO reports and basically everything that I wish I would have known when I first started and all the things that would have saved me so much time and money. I put into this program, but it like really started to blow up and like I loved it. And it was very exciting that it was blowing up. But I was getting so burnt out. That's like when I think back to where I sold my practice about a year ago. When I think to where I was like a year and a half ago and close to 2 years ago, sometimes it makes you want to cry thinking about like how deeply burnt out I was. And so I was like, I can't do both. The coaching was more enjoyable to me, way more room to scale, made way more money, was going to offer way more free time versus like the one-to-one model. So it was kind of became a no-brainer. I'm surprised at like how quickly I decided to sell because I started my coaching program. It started in November of 2023. And by March of 2024, I was like, I'm going to sell this. And I sold it
Wow.
in June of 2024. Yeah, like I don't know if I'd recommend people doing that, but it worked. And it's luckily the income has like been consistent and grown. But I just like had such a big like vision for my coaching program and it's just continued to like blow up. So
Well, and the amazing thing is, it's like if you ever wanted to, you could go back and replicate it because you know how to do it. You know, if like something happened with the coaching program or whatever, because you know how to do that model. So how do you sell it? I mean, I feel like we could have a whole episode on just like selling your practice, but
yeah.
could you give us like kind of a walkthrough of like how do you even sell something like that once you built it?
Yeah, totally. And for me, I remember being like, well, the practice is only good because of the therapists that are there. Like, if the therapists leave, then there's no clients and there's nothing to sell, anyways. So I was like, I could just like go with like the highest bidder and somebody's going to pay me a lot of money. Or I could go with like possibly a therapist at my practice if they'd be willing, or another therapist locally who I knew, who I really trusted. I ended up selling it to the very first person that I like hired, and because like I knew she would keep the culture the same. I knew that like she's an amazing therapist. She had really great client retention. Other therapists really liked working with her. And for me, my coaching business was like growing so much that I was like, okay, I might not make quite as much like selling it to her. And like we figured out like this loan agreement and everything. But yeah, so we went through lawyers and accountants and had an agreement in place and all of the things there. So, because yeah, I didn't know any of the logistics, but I found a lawyer who has specialized in that, and my accountant has been amazing. So that's kind of how we went through the process of it.
And I guess you must have set it up pretty well and pretty structured for somebody to just be able to come in like that, just take it over and have it run pretty
Yeah.
smoothly. That's amazing.
Yeah, because there were enough clients like coming in consistently and the therapists who were like already full. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to like sell that and not have to like I love my therapy practice is like such a baby of mine, but it just got to the point where I was like, I can't give it all the energy that I know it deserves and give my coaching clients like that energy too. Cause I like when I'm passionate about something, I'm like, I want to just go all in. And it was hard to do that for both and try and raise a daughter by myself and like try and like have like my own mental health and physical health and like friendships and social life and just all of the other things. So I knew something had to give. It was like it's funny because I would listen to podcasts about therapists selling their practice, And I remember being like, why do people sell their practice? Like, why can't they hire someone to manage it? And like, I
Yeah.
think someone would sell it. And then I was like, oh, no, I'm in this same boat. Yeah.
I totally get
There's
it.
such like a mental load of wanting it to like succeed. But when you have something else going, it's like, okay, I need to like take the pressure off of this mental load.
I totally get it. And I feel like, I mean, we just have different seasons as people, like I've started and stopped multiple programs, that I was like all in about. And then I'm like, I'm so bored with this.
Yeah.
I've done that now, it's like, it's not interesting me anymore. And there's so much other places I want to put my energy. So I totally get that about, it's like, okay, it just feels like it's time to do it. And it obviously it was because you sold it and that's fantastic. And I guess it was profitable for you to sell it. I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
No, it's
awesome.
been really good. And for me, I was like, the biggest thing is the more energy I can put towards my coaching business, that's where like the real profit is going to like come in. And I can't give it that energy right now that I want to.
Now, in the coaching business, do you find that, you're strictly like trying to help them grow like a group practice or something like that? Or are you seeing like this trend towards other income streams or maybe trying to diversify income, that sort of thing in the coaching?
Yeah, my main focus, honestly, is just helping people to get clients on their caseload. I would say probably 80% of them are solo practice owners, 20% are group. There are quite a bit of people, though. That's how they start. But then there's a good handful of people who, by the time they finish, are ready to hire. So I can think of a few off the top of my head that just finished who are like now making their first hire. And sometimes they make their first hire like halfway through, like, my program or whatever. But probably where they start is like, I'm just trying to fill up myself first. And then some have the goal to hire, some don't. But I for sure do help with other income streams. That's not the main focus. But because I've grown other income streams, there are a lot of people who are like, I eventually want to add coaching. Like today on my group call, someone was like talking about like adding coaching and the support needed for that. I'll occasionally help people with other things too. Like if they want to run a retreat, I've run a couple retreats now, or if they want to sell like some low ticket offer, or I'm trying to think of other common things, but I would say the main thing is getting therapy clients, sometimes hiring and scaling their therapy practice. But then there's a good handful who are like wanting to do coaching or wanting to figure out like speaking or retreats, different things like that as well. Or writing a book. I don't, because I'm in the process of writing a book and it's almost done, but that's like something like I'll sometimes kind of help people with. But yeah, the main thing would for sure be like getting therapy clients.
That's cool. So do you see this like therapists feeling like, or maybe they see you talking on social media or something and they're like, okay, she must have a really cool niche or there must be something really special about what she's offering to be able to get like private pay clients? Or do you find that just like anybody you work with, that they replicate this system that you've got going on, that anybody could really attract private pay clients and be successful with this model?
Yeah, I would say it's for sure anyone. I don't feel like anyone has like this crazy cool, like unique thing. If anything, I mean, sometimes it's the basics of like anxiety and trauma and like just the main things that people are coming to therapy for, feeling stuck in life. Obviously, you do need to like create a good niche and like speak to it very clearly and like really speak to like why people are coming to you. But yeah, I mean, honestly, anyone can. Obviously, different locations could take longer than others, but I also sometimes people are like, I'm in too small of a town, no one's gonna pay cash pay. And then they find out like, oh, actually people are willing to pay cash pay. Or they're like, I'm way too oversaturated. There's so many therapists here. And then they're like, oh, that just means there's also more clients. But obviously, like different locations could be better than others, like different timing. Sure, there's going to be like different niches, maybe that have a higher demand than others. But then sometimes the more unique niches, once they do kind of break into that market, can have success. So I wouldn't say I've like found these like crazy themes of like only if you have this niche or only if you live here, have this type of business or charge this much. I mean, I would say anyone who can drive enough traffic to their website and who have a like a client converting website and giving it enough time. Everyone's timeline is different. Some people truly can like really start to have a lot of growth in 3 months. For some people, it's 6 months. For some people, they might not fill their practice up for a year and a half. But I'm like, if you're trying to grow a 6-figure practice, even if it takes a year and a half or 2 years, like that's totally worth it. I think it's like the unknown of people who are like, there's no known in business. And so that's where I think people like stray from it because there's no guarantee. But if you really just do the math of like, okay, even if I get one new client a month for the next 2 years, and like obviously you're going to grow. If you're getting one a month, you're eventually going to get to 2 a month. And eventually you could get to 3 a month where it continues to scale.
That's awesome. Such good advice. Something else we'd love to talk about on this podcast is like technology and AI and how are we using these new like innovations in the world to help us in our businesses. So I'm just curious, are you seeing any tech or AI innovations that even you're incorporating into your program that you find helpful? I know this podcast is about berries, of course, and I know you're familiar with berries, so we could talk about that. But I'm just curious, like in general, berries or other tools that you're seeing that's helping the people you're working with innovate more or do things faster or scale faster or grow faster?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ChatGPT is just it's like the nicest thing to just be able to like type things out and search and like get the support that you need there and any type of like AI. And I know people use other forms of AI as well. But yeah, berries is something that's amazing because literally it's AI and you don't have to like spend all this time doing notes. I mean, I remember when I had my therapy practice, that was my most dreaded task. I'd put it off for way too
Oh my gosh,
long.
same.
So anytime you can use AI to help take things off your plate, absolutely. So that's why I highly recommend berries. It feels like a no-brainer to not have to spend time doing note taking that AI can do for you and to instead spend the time on marketing where like you do need to do a little bit more of like your own special touch. AI can be great for some copywriting kind of, but more so for ideas. Like you need to put your special touch into like that. And so anyways, AI, I'm like I feel like people need to like jump on the bandwagon in whatever way that looks. You don't have like I know some people are like so like hesitant or afraid it's going to replace therapy, and I don't think it is because people still to this day prefer in person over virtual. So I'm like if you're still wanting in person, like I think we're fine. But yeah, any times you can use AI to help save time through berries is great. ChatGPT. I mean, those are kind of the main platforms that I recommend just to save time for you so that you can like free up your time on like what's most important.
Yes, love it. Oh my gosh, yeah, ChatGPT is like it's kind of bad because it's literally incorporated into literally everything I do in my life all day long.
Mhm.
So yeah, good advice. So we kind of like to do little lightning rounds here and just ask like, what's one marketing tool or strategy that you're totally loving right now? That's just like that is my go-to. Is it ChatGPT? Is there something else out there, some tool that you're using?
Yeah. For my coaching or for people to get therapy clients?
Either one. Yeah.
For people to get therapy clients, Google Business Profile. Like get it,
Okay.
optimize it as quickly as you can. For coaching, I mean, social media. Like people
Yeah.
just, that's where you find people, social media. And ChatGPT is a great way to like help teach you how to actually like get found on social media.
Absolutely. So, what's the best advice you've ever received as a therapist turned coach?
Best advice I'd ever received. Oh, there's so many things I could talk about. But I think just at the end of the day, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you building your business? What's the main reason? What's your motivator? Not getting lost in like the weeds, not getting lost in the money, not getting lost in like other things, but like, I'm truly here to help people. And I think the more genuine you can come across and like actually be, not just come across as a facade, but like actually be, like, the more that's going to attract your ideal clients to want to work with you, whether you're a therapist, coach, whatever it is. So just remembering like why you started in the first place.
I love that so much. Just having that passion for it too. It just really shows through when when you're talking about it today, you can tell that you just love it, the coaching and what you're doing to help therapists. It's amazing. So, do you have a favorite book, a podcast, or a mentor that helped shape you along the way that you could share?
Yeah, absolutely. So Danielle Swim, who does the Entrepreneurial Therapist podcast,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
she's who inspired me. A single mom, started her private pay practice. She is such a huge inspiration to me to
Yeah.
like be like, I think I can start my own private pay practice. So anyway, she's incredible. I was on her podcast once and I was like, I'm fangirling over you because you've helped me so much. So I love her. Carly Hale's also amazing. She's the one that helped me with, like, taught me how to be a coach and how to be
Oh,
a
I
really
love that.
successful coach.
Hmm.
And she has, like, forever changed my life on, like, just really smart systems when you're building a coaching program. She's a genius. So I love her and how much she's helped me. And she has a podcast now, too. And
Yeah,
what
I've seen that.
both of them is they're both just, like, they talk about the strategies in the system. So they also just have such a big vision to help people, which I can like catch on to as well.
Totally. I mean, I've seen both of them and they are amazing. Like the content they post, and I'm sure their programs are killer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really know their stuff. So tell us, how do people find you? How do people work with you, and all the details about that?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Empowering Therapists, or I have a Facebook group, the Therapist Private Pay Accelerator. Tons of free trainings in there. So if you're just like, I don't want to work in your 12-week program, I just want free trainings and free trips, or free tips, not trips. Trips.
I'll take a trip.
Yep. Like, I want a free trip. But anyway, so you can join me on either of those for free trainings, free tips on how to like get private pay clients. But if you are like, hey, I need more support, I need more help, then I do have a 12-week program. Teaches literally everything you would need to know to fill your practice. It has so much support. And you can find the links in either my Instagram or Facebook group. I don't know if we'll post it here, or my website,
Yeah, we'll post it.
empoweringtherapist.com. Yeah, you can just click on the Work With Me page and like learn more about my program there.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time today. It's really been very helpful.
Good. No, it's so great to be on this
Thank
podcast with
you.
you. So thank you for having me.